Y'all, now if you listen to Dogman 101, Dogman 102 criteria that I use for stories, guys, I'm loosening the criteria, put out more content for you. This story, in my opinion, is slightly exaggerated, not overly exaggerated, slightly exaggerated. Well, I believe that this gentleman saw Dogman absent. Emotions that I witnessed on the conversation, he saw something that was beyond fire. He was very caught in fires and working in a dangerous environment. The only thing that threw me off about this was as we go through conversations, multiple conversations, about five, say maybe six, five, kept referring back to November 23rd as the start date for when we had this happen in the house fire. And when I went back to go check, I didn't find where that fire had made it all the way down that ridge so I went back and I looped him in the conversation, kept looping, and I injected into agreement with me that was on the loop wasn't like, are you sure it's 20? It was just straight. So you went, guys had a guy pull over on the side of the road, fire truck, told you that his mom was told you that his mom was trapped in a burnt house. This is on the night. And then it's like, yeah, it was on the night. When I loop people like that and they just agree with what I'm saying, it always sits with me like it's not 100% true. But at the same time, I'll say this about him. Did end up having a stroke. And so could have been attributed to his stroke, his memory loss from that stroke. So I decided to go ahead and encounter. Normally I wouldn't even use this encounter because I want to keep my criteria so strong that when the haters come and be like, oh, his stories are fake, this. I mean, we're lowering the standard, so I'm not going to worry about it. And on the playing field, everybody else posts my own image. So let's see how that works out as I actually play. Nonetheless, the other thing that got me about the story, put me off, was coming to the fire department, trying for his mom. I'm thinking if it's my mama, then I'm going to burn up. I couldn't determine based on that one fact. Human nature is different. The level of bravery in certain men is different. I'm saying, like, it's my mom, I'm going up in the house. I ain't waiting on nobody. I'm my mom. I'm saying, if I got to get a wet blanket and wet it and wrap it around me, I'm going up in. That guy did have kids in the car with him. So that's the factor that makes a difference. Did I not like this mama? I don't know. Those are the two factors that gave me concern about the story. Nonetheless, still a story I enjoyed. I'm hoping you're going to love it. Again, reminder, Thursday night, Men of Steel prayer group. Be there, menofsteel.com, menofsteel.com. Check it out there for the Bible study. You're going to enjoy this. You're going to enjoy this. And let me say this up. I had a comment. Normally I don't respond to comments, but I think it's good to respond to this about somebody saying, oh, you're trying to inject God into cryptids. No. Here's what you need to understand. Here's what's going on in this field for the longest. You see, every time eyewitnesses have one of these harrowing, hair-raising encounters or a near-death encounter, because every time you encounter a cryptid, it's a near-death encounter. It puts you in the same state of mind, go in one direction or the other. They either go back towards being worse than what they were, and spiral downward into all kind of perversion, all kind of crazy stuff, alcoholism, drug use, or they turn to God. And what's happened in this field for a long time is people are afraid to add that element into it because they didn't want to offend certain. Because there's a lot of in this field that don't believe. Frankly, I don't care. No skin off my back. You don't like it, don't listen. It hurts me. Now, let's get down to the story. Let's bust a move. Let's make it happen. Peace.
It was one of our top stories of 2016, and in fact, in all of Tennessee history. The Smoky Mountain fires in East Tennessee, consuming decades of memories and also claiming the lives of more than a dozen people. News Channel 5's Matthew Torres takes a look back at one of the most tragic incidents Tennessee has ever seen.
It is the most visited national park in the country with more than 11 million visitors a year. From Sky 5, you can see what makes the Great Smoky Mountains so great.
This is a special part of the world for a long time, and it will remain that.
But the home to a picture-perfect backdrop recently captured some of its most devastating moments ever.
Go, go, go.
Wildfires quickly ravaged mountains and the popular tourist town of Gatlinburg.
This is the largest fire in the last 100 years of the state of Tennessee.
Officials say the fire started in the chimney tops by two juveniles right before Thanksgiving. By the night of November 28th, it became unstoppable and took everyone by surprise, prompting a massive evacuation.
The winds is what got me. The winds was so bad, things were blowing and breaking.
Hurricane-like winds and severe drought conditions helped flames devour everything in its path. The result? An apocalyptic nightmare. More than 17,000 acres burned and more than 2,000 homes and businesses destroyed. Hundreds were forced to stay at shelters.
This is our life here. These are our mountains. God gave them to us to use and to enjoy. And to see it happen like this is just, it's terrible.
It took almost a week before homeowners were allowed to lay eyes on what's left. For hundreds, it wasn't much.
You know, I was a fireman for 31 years and I've never seen anything of this magnitude. I mean, I've seen houses like this, but I mean, not whole neighborhoods.
November 22nd, 2016 was one of the greatest days in my life. That was the day that my son was born. And when I tell you my wife and I were ecstatic, we were absolutely ecstatic. There's nothing like having a child of your own. In fact, I found that me being the father made me over time become more selfless, more mature, and more importantly, brought me closer to God. However, November 23rd, 2016 was the day I almost lost my life. And it was a juxtaposition between that happiness of having a son and finding myself in the middle of a raging fire trying to save the lives of other people that damn near broke me. There's something about when you find yourself in danger, I mean mortal danger, your life flashes before your eyes. You've heard people talk about it before. Well, that really does happen. As I found myself in this situation during the Gatlinburg fire, my life flashed before my eyes. I realized that I didn't want to die. And it was while I was having that realization that I didn't want to die that I had my encounter with what you would call a dogman. Now stop right here, let me rewind and bring up the speed on what was going on in a moment. Now, if you don't know, that was one of the worst fires in modern history. 14 people lost their lives, countless amounts of property damage. And let me say this to you listening, there's absolutely no way that I would have ever thought about seeing a werewolf in the midst of a fire, but it absolutely made sense. I mean, we as humans flee forest fires. Wild animals flee forest fires. Why wouldn't these cryptids find themselves in situations where they needed to flee as well? When those fires started, no one imagined what the end results would be. Lord knows I didn't imagine it whatsoever. I remember turning on the TV, seeing the fire, and getting the call to head into work. The evacuation orders going out, and making up in my mind that I would do whatever I could do to help my fellow citizens. Fast forward to 11 p.m., November 23rd. We are out helping people evacuate. The fire is starting to rage and roll downhill. The wind is kicking up, and it's a wind unlike anything I had ever seen. In fact, I'd seen forest fires. I've seen household fires. I've seen houses burned down with people inside of them. But I've never, ever seen anything like this. We find ourselves in this situation. A gentleman pulls up in his vehicle and tells us that his house is on fire and his elderly mother is trapped upstairs. So we race over to the location, head inside the house, and sure enough, this elderly woman is there, laid at the top of the steps, choking on smoke. And as I'm carrying this woman down the steps, she starts to talk about Timothy. And she's talking about Timothy like Timothy, it's a baby. She says, "Oh, my sweet Timothy, don't leave him up there, my sweet Timothy." In my mind, I'm thinking that Timothy is a child. At no point in time was I considering that Timothy was an actual feline, a cat. I get her down the steps outside of the house. The team is spraying water on the house. I head back inside looking for what I thought was a child named Timothy. I go into that room. The walls and the ceiling are on fire, and I see nothing. Absolutely nothing. A few seconds later, this brown and white cat darts from under the dresser, through the open door, down the steps, and heads out. So now and I need you to understand, like I told you, I thought we were dealing with a person. Now, as I go turning to leave the room, going back down the steps, the ceiling starts to collapse. And I find myself in a situation where the ceiling towards the front door is falling down and is on fire. Now I have to jump over the banister and find another way out of this burning house. And here, in this moment, is when I had my encounter with what I'm calling a dogman, because as I'm circling around that house looking, there is a side door. And when I tell you I run full speed and run through that door to get out of that house, I slam my body into that door, stumbling outside, fall to the ground. And when I stand up, relieved that I'm outside of the house, and that's when I look uphill behind the house and see this creature jumping and leaping through the fire. And when I tell you this looks like something from a freaking horror movie, 9 feet tall, muscular, and it's just bounding and leaping, barely touching the ground. This thing lands about 15 feet away from me, looks directly at me. And I still remember this as clear as day. Its fur was smoldering with the fire. Then whips his head, takes off around the neighbor's house, and is gone. Now, I don't know if you've ever found yourself in a situation where you sweep something under the rug. You know, you experienced something, you know it was real, it happened, but it was just way too much going on for you to deal with it and process it in that moment. Over the next couple of days, we were fighting one of the worst fires in American history. And I couldn't process that in that moment. It wasn't until the next month when I sat down, thankful to be alive, thankful to be with my family, that I really turned my mind to what I saw. And I made sketches of it, and it fits the exact same description of what you call a dogman.
Do things seem off? Trouble sleeping? Issues in your marriage, finances, or with extended family and friends? These are challenges that many men face, but you don't have to face them alone. The Men of Steel prayer group is here for you. We are a fellowship of individuals who share a common interest in the paranormal and cryptid fields, united in our quest for understanding the supernatural. Our goal is to educate and guide those curious or seeking insight into the supernatural, emphasizing the role of Jesus Christ as the supreme authority over the supernatural realm. Visit us at strongmenpraying.com to learn more. The Men of Steel prayer group, where faith and curiosity forge a stronger spirit.